Hey y'all, how you doing? Welcome to our webinar for today. It's great to have you guys here. We're going to be talking about how to get your annual state cannabis retail license specifically for the state of California. But what we're going to talk about is probably going to translate almost verbatim for most states in the United States. But a lot of different things and nuances for every little state, but we're going to cover a lot of the big things that you need to understand. So,
hey everybody, welcome again one more time. My name is Jim Brees, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at GreenGrowth CPAs. And the topic today we're going to cover is how to get your annual state retail license for cannabis businesses. So a little bit about us. I want to let you know that, we started off as a small boutique tax shop and then have grown from there. We've prepared over 1,200 annual tax returns for cannabis business operators from all the different verticals: dispensaries, distribution, cultivation, manufacturing, delivery, and testing. We have over 350 clients across 11 states. So if there is recreational or medical cannabis in that state, we probably have a presence in that state, clients in that state. And the ones that are coming online, we're trying to get our boots on the ground and see how the industry is developing so we are ready once those regulations drop and it's opened up for business. We also worked in audit-related work as well. So we did in 2018 12 audit-related and valuation projects to help really sharpen the saw of financial knowledge for the operators in the industry, so they know, hey, this is how much our business is worth, this is what the audits are putting back, and this is actually where your cash is going, and making sure everything is where it's supposed to be at. And we have a thorough and deep understanding of tax, compliance, assurance-related requirements for the cannabis industry. So we go again from a tax shop to an all-around able to help you with pretty much anything you need for the cannabis industry. And if we can't do it for you, we can connect you with the right people for the job. We are also PCAOB, CPAB, and CBA certified and registered. And those are oversight boards that certify and register CPA firms like ourselves so that we can audit public companies in Canada and the United States. So a little disclaimer before we hop in, I need to let you know that the information contained in this webinar presentation is meant for guidance purposes only and not as professional legal or tax advice. And further, it does not give any personalized legal, tax, investment, or any business advice in general. So with that out of the way, let's hop right in. So the agenda for today, first we're going to talk about the differences between storefront and non-storefront retail licenses, deliveries, and then the actual shops that open up. And then we're going to identify the governing agencies and the application process for cannabis retail businesses, and then we'll break down the fees as well as outline the application requirements for applicants engaging in retail activities, specifically, with the actual business, brick and mortar, as well as for all applicants, maybe the ones that are going to do delivery and for retail. And then finally, what happens after you get your state license issued. Let's first talk about the difference between storefront and non-storefront retailers. So you have Type 10 and Type 9 licenses. Type 10 is for storefront retailers, and Type 9 are for non-storefront retailers. In storefront retailers, they sell cannabis goods to customers at a location or premises or by delivery. A storefront retailer must have a licensed physical location premises, including an address where the commercial cannabis activities are going to be conducted. Whereas a non-storefront retailer sells cannabis goods to customers exclusively through delivery. A non-storefront retailer must also have a licensed premises, just like the storefront retailer, to sell their cannabis goods for delivery. And the premises of a non-storefront retailer shall not be open to the public. So you can't just, have someone call in and say, hey, I see you're at 1400 Olive Street. Can I just swing by and pick it up? You can't do that. You can't have any business conducted on the premises of your non-storefront retailer. So where do you actually start with getting your licenses? So initially, you're going to start working with the Bureau, and that is the Bureau of Cannabis Control. Again, there's 3 government agencies in the state of California that enforce all the regulations specifically related to cannabis, and they are the BCC, which is the Bureau of Cannabis Control, the CDFA, which is the California Department of Food and Agriculture, the Cal Cannabis Division, and then you have the CDPH, the California Department of Public Health. And this is for Manufactured Cannabis Safety Branch, right? So that's specifically the branch you're going to be working with at the CDPH. Now, depending on what type of cannabis business you're planning, the application process may require you submit to other multiple agencies. But for this specific retail one, let's just talk about these 3 agencies specifically. And retailers, any business that plans to conduct any cannabis retail must submit all their documents to the Bureau of Cannabis Control. It's very important that they are the first to get everything, and really most importantly, I should address this right at the beginning, but it's very, very important important that you get granted your local approval before actually applying for the state license. Because a lot of what you actually do for the local approval will translate to the state approval, but you will not get state approval if you haven't chose a jurisdiction and then gone through their process and been approved by them. Because, really most of the state licenses for cannabis retailers are going to get approved. They just need to have the same information that your local jurisdiction has that's on record with the state. It's very simple in that manner. So again, if you don't have your local application granted and your license granted in that area, then you probably won't be able to get a state license. So make sure you work on that stuff first. Now, the licensing fees, this largely depends on the scale of your business operation. So for Type 9 and Type 10 licenses, the BCC's fee guideline is based on how much gross revenue you're going to actually earn. And again, all those are listed here, but the licensing fees can be from $2,500 all the way upwards to almost $100,000 for the licenses. And there's different breaks here. We go from the less than $500,000 to the $500,000, $750,000 to $750,000 to $1 million, and then add on $500,000 each there. All the way till you get to over $7.5 million, which is the ceiling. I mean, you can make more than that, but the cap is going to be at $96,000 for the licenses here. And you'll have to do a financial pro forma, find out what you think in your market. They will know comparables, and they being the actual BCC of what they think you're going to be able to earn, right, by the number of dispensaries that are in the area, how many more are coming online, as well as a financial analysis or pro forma that you'll plan and give out to them, and then you'll pay an according fee per license. So here are some basic requirements for retailers from the BCC, all right? Your hours of operation can be only from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and access to the licensed premises, which are storefront only, right? Who can actually get into here is going to be anyone 21 years of age or 18 years or older with a medical recommendation. And you have to verify their age prior to entry into the building, and limited access areas are for employees only. These are like, where the storage is at, where the check-in is at, where behind the counter for the bud tenders. There are specific areas and limited access areas as well as access areas for the clients, but you have to make sure you know where those are at and enforce those rules with your clients. You can't let these things get very lax because, we've heard some kind of, audits where they do like a secret shopper thing. And how much of this is actually true, I'm not sure in the cannabis industry, but very much so in the hospitality industry. And I'm sure this will mature into something in the actual cannabis industry is that, look, the Bureau is going to send people into your retailer to see, are you actually following the guidelines? And if they start seeing that, hey, you have clients coming hanging behind the counter or doing things they're not supposed to be doing, trust me, either they're going to give you a fine or fee, or they may even pull your license. Competition is extremely high in the retail business. You have to understand that it's not a very groundbreaking idea to open up a cannabis shop. So anybody that breaks any rules will be easily dismissed or fined for doing so. So make sure you're staying on the up and up and not pushing your boundaries, and just stay within the BCC's guidelines. Now, for cannabis goods that can be for sale, you can only sell cannabis goods and accessories or branded merchandise. And goods cannot be expired. If they catch you selling expired cartridges, or if the turn on the flower is not fast enough, and it has an expiration date from a prepackaged manufacturer, you cannot sell it past that expiration date. And you must receive all cannabis goods from a licensed distributor. You can't just go down the street and buy 2 pounds of flower from Frank because he grows it at his house and you've been buying it for your whole life and it's great. They have to be a licensed distributor. The distributor can get it from Frank the grower, but you can't go directly there unless Frank actually has that license. So this is where that networking, building a supply chain comes in, right? Working with the right distributors, working with multiple distributors, because you never know how much on the up and up your distributors are, and they may have an accident. They may have an employee go rogue and do something wrong, and now if that was your only distributor, now you're locked up and you have no product, and hopefully tomorrow you can still open. That's just the thing about distributing your supply chain to multiple distributors and working with only licensed distributors. Let's continue down some more of these requirements here. So customer returns. They may be accepted by the retailer if the customer is, not happy with the product, past the expiration date, it doesn't work, the battery on the vaporizer doesn't work, or the cartridge locks up, or whatever reason, you can accept returns. And returns goods must be destroyed, or if defected, they have to be returned to the distributor for a credit, however your arrangement is with your distributor. But you have to destroy these things. You can't just resell them. You can't use them yourself. Again, they must be destroyed. Any returns that come back through the building. So there are extensive regulations on the cannabis goods packaging, the labeling, and the exit packaging, right? The actual thing that is holding the cannabis. It's got to be opaque, it has to be resealable, and tamper evident and child resistant packaging. So the opaque is for the actual exit packaging, resealable is for the goods packaging, tamper evident is for the exit packaging, as well as for the goods packaging, and child resistant for the goods packaging, right? Most of the time you're going to see the bottles. Those can be used to hold the goods as well, right? Because they have the different mechanisms to allow child resistance. And then you have, the tamper evident stuff at the staple through the bag. There's many different mechanisms. There's a lot of cool packaging things coming out. So, don't invest too heavily in the packaging, right? It's not the main reason people are coming to you, but if you can find something that's cost effective and also a little slick and kind of puts you apart, that can be part of your branding. And this does not apply to immature plants being sold. So if you're selling clones, they don't have to be in these particular tamper-proof or opaque packaging because, that could kill the actual plant that you are selling. So some color around the actual shipments and the records you must keep. You can only receive shipments, again, through the normal operating hours, 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. But the real big one is that you must maintain inventory records, financial records, personnel records, training records, contracts, permits, security records, sales records. Literally anything that happens in the business on the property, you pretty much have to keep a record of it. And this, there's an extensive, in the regulations what those logs must look like. But, a great record to have is pretty much 24/7 video surveillance of anything and every square inch that's ever happened on your property. Keep and maintain these records, cash logs, inventory records, retail POS system records, all these things. Build infrastructure ahead of time to be able to capture this information. And maybe not so that you're actually producing the reports right away, but it's best to capture the information right away. It seems like a headache and a lot of busy work, but this is a regulated industry similar to aviation or alcohol or anything where there's a controlled substance. You just have to keep records of these things, and this is just par for the course. This is exactly what's going to happen no matter what. No matter how difficult and much you complain about it, no matter what, you still have to do it. So build that infrastructure ahead of time. And if you need help with, hey, what do we need to do and what infrastructure do we need to build out, reach out to GreenGrowth CPAs and we can help you build the frameworks for that infrastructure. And now retailer transfer of goods. So say you have multiple dispensaries, right? The same license holder for both locations, right? You have to have the same license holder for these locations. You have to hire a licensed distributor to transport the goods from dispensary A to dispensary B. You cannot just be, the owner or general manager of dispensary A and then head on over to dispensary B with the cannabis in your trunk. Even though it may be locked and in the right packaging, you don't have the license to distribute cannabis on the actual roads. So let's go ahead and cover some delivery procedures here. And the reason I'm going to cover procedures is because when you go for your state license, the state is going to ask you to submit what they call SOPs, and that's short for Standard Operating Procedures. And what that is pretty much a manual that says, as a retailer, as a delivery person, I'm going to be doing this business activity in these specific ways. Step 1, Step 2, Step 3. If Step 3 is not done, you can't go to Step 4 and then resort to Step 7, all these different things on how you actually run your business. So I'm going to go over a few nuances here of things that you should keep in mind and consider and build potentially some infrastructure or procedures around. And then we'll also go over some more SOPs further into this presentation. So first and foremost, age verification. You need to know who you're selling to and how old they are, so make sure that they're falling within the regulations. And so delivery employees must verify the age by inspecting a valid form of government-issued identification for all delivery customers in person before they actually complete the delivery of the cannabis goods. So it's not something like you can do the deal and say, hey, let me see your ID to make sure that you're actually 21. This is something you have to do before you transact and exchange the money. Delivery drivers can only deliver to a physical address and not sensitive sites, so things like schools or daycares, right? You can't just pull up to First and Main Street and then serve to some person on the corner of the road here. You have to actually go to a physical address because this is part of the regulations. And then delivery driver documents, things they need to keep with them is a copy of the retailer's license, a government-issued ID for the driver themselves, an ID badge provided by the licensed retailer. Again, this should probably be something that has a picture of the employee, a name and location of the actual retailer, maybe even a delivery driver ID so you can verify who the person is, and contact information for the retailer, and then prepared request receipts for delivery. Further, delivery employees need to keep records of inventory ledgers, request receipts, and logs of their stops, right? There's different pieces of information you need to keep for these, but this is part of the actual, booklet or pamphlet or package you need to give to your delivery drivers, and things you need to actually train and teach them how to do this. This is what the government's looking for. This is what I as a business am looking for, because you're not bound just by what the regulations are. If there's data or information you want the delivery driver to collect over time, just so you have this information for your business, maybe it's like, how much gasoline are you using? How many miles are you driving? What is the time from place to place? So you can maybe estimate each delivery is 47 minutes long and it's within, 7.8 miles of my business round trip. That could be information you could use potentially for doing demand-based pricing, like an Uber, right? All these different kind of things you can do if you capture more information. Another nuance here, at the state level, it may differ from each different local jurisdiction, but the state level, the maximum is $5,000 maximum of cannabis goods can be carried at any time. And you'll say, hey, well, how do they know? We could just say that the cost is for the 5 pounds is $1,000 per pound. They're going to look at what you're doing for retail and say, hey, there's a lot more than $5,000 in this car. So, just don't push the edge. You have, you can make multiple delivery hubs if that's a thing you're looking for. And delivery vehicles must be an enclosed motor vehicle equipped with a GPS device and secure storage for the cannabis goods. And the vehicle is not required to be owned by the retail licensees. So your delivery driver can provide their own vehicle, and it can't be anything like a bike or a moped, no drones, no air delivery, none of these kind of things. It's literally got to be a car, 4 wheels, able to lock it up. They're very strict on this, but they want these things done particular ways. But it's great that you have the leeway that the retail licensee does not have to provide all the vehicles, and that you can have your driver provide their own vehicle. So now the BCC has requirements for all of the annual licensees. This is information you're going to be providing to the BCC when you fill out your applications. So in the following slides, I'm going to outline the general requirements for all cannabis business applicants and the criteria for the state of California. You use the online portal for other resources, bcc.ca.gov, to fill out an application as well. Get very familiar with the cannabis sites, the government sites. See these bureaus and these 3 government agencies, and if you have to go through other agencies as well, as partners in your process of starting your cannabis company. They're not here to make this any more difficult for you, right? Think about, you have to do this on the scale of 1. They have to do this on the scale of 500, 1,000, 2,000 businesses. So they just need all this information, and the more robust they can make the websites and the information, the more you can participate in the process of educating yourself around that. Because look, if you miss some of these pieces of information, they're either going to delay your application, deny it, request more information. So you might as well just really get in there and in the nitty-gritty and know what you have to do. And if it's something you need someone else to help quarterback that process, that's where GreenGrowth CPAs can come in and help you out with that. So just rifle off the information here. We need owner's information to the BCC. Evidence of your legal right to occupy. We'll get to that in a moment here. A premises diagram, business formation document, so all the information for your entity, your limited waiver of sovereign immunity, and this only applies if the applicant is part of a federally recognized tribe or sovereign entity, which pretty much says, hey, I'm giving up all the protections that a recognized tribe or sovereign entity has, right? Because a lot of them can go and supersede federal regulations. You're pretty much saying, hey, I'm not going to allow myself that benefit. I'm going to be pretty much a regular citizen while operating my cannabis business. And then you need to get your CEQA Compliance verification and documentation, and that is the California Environmental Quality Act. There is a survey and study that needs to be done for the premises that you're going to be working on, and you need to work with an expert on this. Some of these, and we'll get to the CEQA stuff a little bit later in the presentation, but it's something you have to get done, and one thing you should plan to start sooner rather than later, because you may need to actually get a survey or study done on your behalf. Then you need to go to the CDTFA, get your seller's permit, a labor peace agreement, which means if you have 20 or more employees, you need to offer them fair wages and benefits and pretty much livable wage, and you'll recognize them and allow them to organize in a union if they choose to. Now, the financial information form, a surety bond, compliance with the Compassionate Use Act, live scans for all the owners and people of financial interest, as again, the operating procedures for transportation, inventory, quality control, and security. So a lot of information you need to get together. And again, a lot of this stuff translates from your local approval and license application to this one as well. So who are the owners? All right, what are the owners of your business? So owners can be defined as individuals, business entities, or other groups with an aggregate ownership interest of 20% or more in the business applying for the license. And an owner can be the chief executive officer or a member of the board or an individual who will participate in the direction, control, or management of the business as outlined in the Business and Professional Code. And percentages of ownership interest, prior convictions, licensing sanctions, and financial interests in other cannabis businesses must also be disclosed. It's pretty much a full open the kimono. You have to be very transparent, especially with the owner's information. Because if they find out later that you have lied on your application, trust me, there will be repercussions, whether it's pulling the thing all away and you're not having the license anymore, or if there's fines and fees. And those are things you do not want to have come down on your head while you're trying to operate and start and grow in this very amazing industry. So go ahead, again, be truthful, be transparent. It always works in the long run. So let's go over what the legal right to occupy is. So as a retailer for both delivery and storefront retail, you're going to need a place of business, right? And so you need to either go out and buy that yourself or rent that piece of property. And if you're going to be releasing that property, the landlord needs to provide you documentation that explicitly states and demonstrates that the applicant has permission, or you actually have permission, to conduct specific commercial cannabis business activities on their properties. And lease agreements and any other agreements regarding this lease need to be included in your application. But if you're the owner of the property, then you just need to provide the title or the deed to the property demonstrating that you own this property. It's just that they need to have clarity and transparency with the owner, because you don't want the owner not knowing you're doing this business. As a business owner, you need to have complete transparency, because the landlord is not a problem or a roadblock in your business. They are a partner. This is a person you have to work with, month in and month out, not just sending them a check, but if there's an issue with your business, leaky pipes, bad electricity, the door's wrong, someone's, painted on the wall, you need to work with your landowner or your landlord to make sure that you get everything remedied in a fast way possible. So again, seek a win-win with your landlord and get this legal right to occupy and submit it to the BCC. So when applying for your state retail license, you're going to need a premises diagram, and a very detailed one at that. So let's just hop into the checkpoints here that you need for your premises diagram. It needs to be made to scale. You need to have your APN and parcel boundaries written out and disclosed, the premises boundaries and dimensions explicitly written out there, perimeter dimensions of all the rooms on the actual premises for the building, where the entrances and the exits are, which parts are the common areas versus the limited access areas, interior partitions and windows and doors, activity descriptions for each discrete area that you're going to have on there. Again, limited access areas need to be explicitly labeled, the numbering and locations of all the cameras that you're going to be working on the property or having on the property. And this is something that a security company is going to want to do for you, right? They know how many cameras, what the actual coverage area is. Should it be a 1080 or a 360 camera? Are there any blind spots? That's why you have to have such a detailed premises diagram, because they're going to know that you worked with a smart and experienced security company and professionals that can make this the right setup for your business and reduce that exposure to risk. You need to label any neighboring licensees and other businesses on the property, and note to micro businesses with cultivation activities, you must provide premises information like roads, water crossings, and any other things that are going to deal with the environment as well. Also, when going for your retail cannabis license, you're going to need to submit your business formation documents. So if you're a sole proprietor, you may only be required to submit a fictitious business name or a DBA form filed with the local business permit office, along with appropriate tax information and tax forms. Now, whether you're an LLC, a limited partnership, a general partnership, or a corporation, you'll most likely need to submit a combination of these following documents I'm going to label here, in addition to those required by the sole proprietor. So you're going to still need that DBA form, but you're also going to need to give the articles of incorporation, the statement of information, certificate of stock, your stock ledger, org charts, bylaws, lists of the board members, partnership agreement, statement of partnership authority, certificates of limited partnership, and operating agreements. So there's a lot of documents you need to have there. Pretty much any piece of paper your lawyer has touched, you probably need to submit it. And then for other types of businesses like trusts, they're going to need to provide their certificate of trust, establishing the trustee authority. Foreign corporations and foreign LLCs, you need to have a statement and designation by foreign professional corporation, certificate of qualification, certificate of registration, or certificate of status issued by the California Secretary of State. So if you're like, hey, I don't have all this, these documentations. Well, there is with the Secretary of State a portal called the Cannabis file where all business formation documents of cannabis businesses can be found and uploaded directly to the submission portal on the Cal Cannabis website. So go ahead, check out that Cannabis file and see if your documents are there. And if not, hey, reach out to your lawyer, check your email. You're going to have that documents. Again, this is stuff you already submitted to your local jurisdiction for your local approval. So let's just go over CEQA compliance real quick here. So you need documentation that demonstrates an exemption or compliance with CEQA, which is the California Environmental Quality Act. And you need one of two things, a notice of determination or a notice of exemption. And in the event that no CEQA compliance or exemption documentation from the city or state is available, then the burden of providing this kind of documentation to the state falls upon you, the applicant. So this is probably not something you were forced to give to your city or county when you went for your local jurisdiction approval. So this is something you have to ask them for. And again, if you don't have it, you need to provide this and you would work with a certified professional to get this for you. So we're going to go over the standard operating procedures. Now the BCCA has designed several additional worksheets to streamline this application process, and that outlines the proposed operating procedures that each applicant needs to give to the state and demonstrate that you know what the heck you're doing in your business. And this is going to hit on four main pillars: transportation, inventory, quality control, and security procedures. And we have a video on SOPs on our YouTube channel, and we can also help you develop these SOPs. But let me just give you a few angles and parts of each of the procedures, but this is something you're going to have to build out. It's like, a manual for your business. So transportation procedures. Now, if you're not going to be transporting cannabis, then you do not need to have these in there. You just need to state specifically that you are going to be contracting for transportation. And that's for most of the retailers here. And delivery procedures, again, we went over some of these already, that you need to age verify before you do the transaction. Only carry $5,000 in product on you. The delivery driver needs to have ID and all these different little things on that end. We already went over at the beginning of this. I don't want to repeat those over again. So inventory procedures. How are you going to receive your shipments of cannabis? When's it going to happen? Where is it going to happen? What's the procedure of actually checking to make sure that the product is the right product? How are you going to store the inventory? How are you going to perform inventory reconciliation? How are you going to ensure that your inventory records are accurate and not being misrepresented? And what's your procedure for maintaining the records of the inventory? For quality control, how are you going to prevent the deterioration of your cannabis goods through proper packaging and labeling? How are you going to confirm that all products were tested by a licensed testing lab? For security procedures, what and how many security cameras are you going to have? Where are they going to be placed at? What alarm systems and maintenance of the equipment schedule are you going to have? How many buzzers are you going to have? How many panic buttons? What access points will be secured, including the security personnel? How many are you going to have? How many will be armed guards? How many will be unarmed? And where will they be at? What's their responsibilities? Again, we have videos on SOPs on our YouTube channel. And if you need help with developing these SOPs, reach out to us. We can help you and we can put you in touch with the right security professionals, the right inventory professionals, the right transit professionals. So this is a very long, laborious process to create these SOPs. And if it's something you don't want to undertake, again, reach out to us. Let's go over some real quick additional requirements. Again, you need your CDTFA seller permit. You can get that at the CDTFA website, your labor peace agreement, your surety bond of $5,000, the financial information. Again, all lists of the investments, the loans and funds and gifts associated with the cannabis business, the compliance with the Cannabis Use Act, and again, approval from your local agency, and live scan background checks for everybody that's going to be within your business. So after you get your state license and it's issued, what happens next? Well, you have to go through track and trace training, which is metric. You have 10 days. Once you get that approval in that email, you have 10 days to complete the Cal Cannabis's California Cannabis Track and Trace training. And to gain access to track and trace system, the licensee's designated account manager must have completed and provided proof of completion of track and trace training prescribed by the department. So you're going to get a certificate that says you've actually completed this, the person who's like your main point of contact, and then you'll be able to get access to the track and trace system, and then your business can start to go and be up and running. So we've covered a lot of information here. We've been talking almost for 40 minutes. And so let's just go over some key takeaways. First, all cannabis retailers apply through the BCC portal. That's going to be your main hub and point of contact for submitting all the documents for your state retail cannabis license. And it's going to require an extensive business and operational documentation. There's a lot of things you just got to open up the books, and it's good that you know this stuff as yourself going in, but the state needs to know all this stuff too as well. And the annual licensing fees, again, are scaled based on the success of your business. So the more you make, the more expensive your licensing fee. And work with certified professionals is the last takeaway. People like ourselves, GreenGrowth CPAs, work with a reputable lawyer who's been in the cannabis space. Work with a cannabis-specific security company, right? Anyone that's specific in the cannabis space, because there's a lot of compliance and regulation requirements in our space that's not maybe required of other industries that maybe a lawyer or a security professional may serve. So work with cannabis-specific specialists to give you that guidance when applying for your local and state approval for your retail license. So if you need help with your annual state cannabis retail license application, even your local license, then please reach out to GreenGrowth CPAs today by going to our website, greengrowthcpas.com, or give us a call at 800-674-9050. And I appreciate you showing up today, listening to the presentation, watching the presentation. There was a lot of information given to you today, but it's just the reality of the situation. It's a regulated industry. It's a lot of nuances and many, many pitfalls and things that can really wreck your business if you're not in compliance or on the right side of the law or checking the right boxes. So again, if you need help, reach out to us at greengrowthcpas.com or give us a call at 800-674-9050. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.